talk about the courage to tithe. When my boys were in school, they would talk about with their friends flow. Went like this. Hey, dude, give me some flow. Or it would be, no, man, I can't go. I got no flow.
Oh.
So, flow was money. And I was always a little amused to think that they were equating money with flow, which indeed it is. It's the spiritual flow, the divine flow, way of being in the harmony with the universe. And when we're in flow, then all things unfold beautifully. So, I think we're a little, I don't know, confused in Centers for Spiritual Living because we don't like to talk about money. Have you ever noticed that? We don't like to talk about money. And then there's conversation among us as religious scientists that perhaps our philosophy is a little too materialistic. We don't want to talk about money, but we accuse ourselves of being materialistic. It's very perplexing, I think. It is for me, anyway. The truth of the matter is that that when people come into this teaching, they often come from a place of crisis. And very often the crisis is related to financial issues, perhaps, or relationship issues, or other kinds of maybe health. It's a place of crisis. And people come into this philosophy looking for a way to fix themselves. And then they can, and they do. It's like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. When we are able to get our most basic needs met and healed, then we can start looking at this philosophy from a deeper, richer, more powerful point of view. But we can't do that when we're distracted with our fears around all of the stuff that can go wrong in our lives. The money issue, the relationship issue, the health issue. But when we learn to use these principles in a powerful way, the way they work for us, then we're free to step into a deeper, richer, spiritual, personal environment. So, I want to tell you another story about one of my boys. This is Hale, who is the oldest son now. I mean, he's always been the oldest son. He hasn't changed his position in the family at all. When we were in Texas, he was out in the field by himself, and there were a lot of open spaces and also a lot of dark piney woods and things. And he was in this open field walking along, and suddenly 2 Rottweiler dogs were chasing him. And he was running and running and running and running and running from these dogs that were after him. You know, Rottweilers are pretty scary looking dogs. And there were 2 of them. and he was running, and he was running, and he was running, and he was out of breath, and he was tired, and he was really, really afraid. And he suddenly just turned around and he said, "Stop!" He couldn't go any farther. And the dogs laid down right in front of him. And he just came home. To me, this is a really powerful spiritual message. We can run from our fears. And we can run and we can run. And the dogs are always nipping at our heels, right behind us. The dogs of the bill collectors, the relationship dogs, the health dogs, all of those things that are chasing after us and we're running from. When in fact, the courageous thing to do is turn and look them in the face and say, no, no more. No more. To establish borders and boundaries and to allow ourselves to be very clear where our courage comes from. Our courage comes from where we're grounded, and in the spiritual message that we are grounded with. Our connection with the one, the universal, dynamic one. No, I'm not going to be in fear. I'm not going to run away from what is in front of me to be confronted. I'm not going to do it. And that's a very powerful spiritual message. There's another story that I have to get my tissue here for. Little boy and his sister was unwell. She had a blood disease. And the doctors were looking for a match to give her a transfusion. And it turned to find out a little boy who was about 6 was a perfect match. And so the family, the parents, and the doctors talked to this little boy and said, would you be willing to give your blood to your sister so that she can live? And the little boy agreed to do it. 6 years old. He was the big brother. His sister was 4. So as they were doing that transfusion, as they were drawing blood from him, he said, how long until I die? That's such a message of courage, I think, to me. This little child that was willing to give to his sister. And he didn't understand that when we're healthy, our blood regenerates and creates more. And that's the same with all difficulties. When we're healthy, spirit rejuvenates and revitalizes and replenishes for us. When we're spiritually in alignment, we are always supplied and given what we need and we're replenished. Whether that's we're replenished with financial well-being, whether that's we're replenished with divine good health, vitality, and energy, whether we're replenished with love, when we're in spiritual health, when we are in alignment, when we're willing to be courageous enough to give, we're always replenished. So I'm talking now about the courage. The courage to be in spirit and the courage to tithe. In whatever way that means to you. We just finished the 5 gifts class. And loosely for the last month I've been talking about the principles for 5 gifts of abundance. They are gratitude. So when we are in alignment and when we are grateful and demonstrating our gratitude, then we are in the flow. We're being replenished. The second gift is intention. When we're clear about what we want, how we choose to show up in this world, then we are living in flow with abundant life. And forgiveness and faith, knowing that we absolutely are the beloved. And we are absolutely the divine expression of spirit. And when we stand in that, knowing, then we're living an abundant life. And tithing. Now tithing is, we get all tight about it. And the truth of the matter is, it is a very powerful spiritual principle that as you give, so shall you receive. Standing in the courage of saying, all right, I am absolutely going to acknowledge with gratitude everything that I have received from Spirit. I'm going to give back, knowing full well that as we're healthy and as we're spiritual, the universe flows back to us. Just like our blood regenerates, so our pocketbook regenerates. We cannot outgive God, as the saying goes. And the final principle that I'm going to talk about next week is surrender. Just letting go of our concern and our worry. Trusting and knowing fully that we are divinely supplied. So we just finished that 5 gifts class. And Jennifer Martinez and I were talking about it yesterday, and I was telling her what I was going to talk about. And she told me a story. And I want to ask her to come up here and share that story with you. Her 5 gifts story. So I don't know whether you know Jennifer or not. She's Austin's mom. She's famous here, Austin's mom. And she also is the president of the board. So,
Austin's mom and president of the board. Oh,
yeah. Oh my! So tell them what you told me yesterday.
Okay, a couple weeks ago, I got this letter from an attorney saying, your ex-husband owes you this much money, but you're not going to see it forever. So I had the courage to say, you know what, I want to close this chapter, and I let about $9,000 go. And I just said, it's done. And in the meantime, I've been sort of figuring out life's ebbs and flows with my home. It was in a little bit of underwaterness and a lot of, $9,000 worth of underwaterness. And all of a sudden I get a phone call on Friday and we have found a solution to save my home. And I sign on Monday for some new papers, and it's in the amount of $9,000. So I had the courage to let $9,000 go, and $9,000 found its way to me. This philosophy is just amazing, and this is not my golden wish. This is just the beginning. Isn't that awesome? Like, just keep your faith and love, and don't give up, and it will flow to you.
Oh.
So, I'm so blessed.
Oh, yeah, you can- Here.
You want to put that away? Sure. Thanks. So I wanted her to share that with you. I love that story. She had the courage to come to the class, to step into tithing, and obviously money wasn't just flowing perfectly in her life. And then she had the courage to heal and forgive her relationship with her old partner, her former partner. And look what happened. The universe conspired with her to flow everything that she needs to take care of her home so that she can take care of the boys. I just love this stuff. It all works so perfectly. And yes, it does take courage. It takes courage to allow enough space for spirit to be at work. Spirit can't flow into our lives when we're all tensed up and gnarled up and upset and afraid. It only is when we are stepping in and being courageous, when we have the courage to turn and say, no, I'm not going to do it this way. When we courageously stop and turn and call the dogs off, then Spirit has an opportunity to flow into our lives in ways that we need. Maybe not even ways that we can figure out. When Jen had the courage to say, no, I'm not going to be caught up in old patterns of blame and shame and anger and guilt. No, I'm not doing that. When she had the courage to step into her faith, then the universe was able to flow healings to her, for her, in ways that she couldn't have imagined. Our little human brains can't figure it all out. But the divine universal essence that we are part of can flow into our lives and heal and fix and repair and mend and create in ways that we never dreamed possible. And that's how it works. So it's not just about tithing. It is the whole principle of the courage to have faith, to know and to trust that all is well and all is in divine right order, no matter how scary it may look. Because one thing we do really well is imagine, right? We create so many scary scenarios. And when we think of those scary scenarios, those are thoughts that are going out into the universe and can be recreated for us. So, that's my message for today. It's a message about having the courage to say no to the things that are scary and frightening and snapping at your heels. To say yes to the universe and the way that the universe works and flows for us and through us. To say yes to ways to create health and wellness and dynamic well-being in all areas of life. There's a quote that I wanted to share with you. It's actually it's Winston Churchill's quote. It says, "Success is never final. Failure is never fatal. It is courage that counts." I love you all. Namaste. The practitioners and Reverend Aaron to stand and hold the consciousness for us all. When I talk about being grateful for this community, this is the community that I'm grateful for. These practitioners know the highest and best for this community and for each one of you. And there's the prayer box here that I would invite you, if you have a need for courage, if you have something that's snapping at your heels, please share that request. There's little yellow sheets there, and the practitioners will hold you in prayer. So join with me as I acknowledge that I am in the divine flow, that I am connected to that one loving essence, that one loving spirit, and I am emboldened by that knowledge. I am emboldened by the faith of absolute knowing that all is well. I just acknowledge that when I am in fear, I am cutting myself off from the one that is my guidance, my protection, my love, my essence. When I fully allow myself to step into the flow of universal love, knowing, my life unfolds with beauty and ease and amazing solutions. At this one particular moment, I open my heart to our Harvey, who seems to be having some challenges today. And I absolutely know that Spirit is right where he is. That his body is being replenished in ways that are necessary. His mind is replenished and his spirit is replenished. And so in this universal oneness, I hold and know the truth for Harvey, that all is well. I hold and know the truth for each one of us. And I hold and know the truth for this center. Acknowledging that it is the vision of spirit, that Circle's Edge is a divine idea in the mind of God. And I claim good and only good for each one of us, those that are here and those that are unable to be with us. I celebrate the good. And I open myself to more and more. And I absolutely know that more and more, better and better, richer and richer, fuller and fuller, is flowing into each one of our lives. And with confidence, I set those words out into the universe, knowing that they cannot be returned to me void. It must be so. And I give thanks for it. And I declare it done. And I invite you to join with me by owning it deeply, by saying, and so it is.